Okay, hi. Good morning, everybody. Morning where I am. Okay, today we are going to do some more construction set work. I'm going to change variables. No, I'm not. I'm going to say that I can't change variables the way I'm going to change what I'm going to change today, which is journal entries. I tried changing variables using this method, and it doesn't necessarily work too well. But this should work for what I'm about to do today, which is that I'm going to change journal entry names in Erengard Mines by using the export import method. The other method would be to do it manually, to scour through all the dialogue and all the scripts to find instances of where a journal name occurs and change it accordingly that way. But this way should be a little quicker. Now, as I say, this will not work for local variables, as I discovered. I did a test run last night and found out why local variables do not change easily when you're renaming them, but with objects such as journal entries, you should be able to get away with it much more easily. Now, I did a test run earlier today. Normally I would do them together, but as if you've been following me, as you may recall, I've been working on my main plugin, which has Erengard Mines baked into it, incorporated into it, amalgamated into it, and a standalone version of Erengard Mines, which is just a plain substitute for the original, just using the different format that I use in my naming scheme under the Moorwind amalgamated system. So I've already done the standalone this morning, so let's try the main plugin, which is going to be a little bit larger and more cumbersome, but will essentially follow the same procedure. And hopefully I can do this right, but it should be fairly straightforward. And Erengard Mines is pretty simple. There aren't that many changes involved in journal entries for this one, so hopefully it won't botch up too badly or take too long or anything. But we will have a script recompile in the middle of this, and it will be the thing that takes the longest. Otherwise, probably won't take more than about, he says optimistically, 15 minutes or so. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up first of all, we're going to make a backup, I think. Okay, so let's go into Rymash, and we'll go to our data files here that I've been working on. MWAM main is down here somewhere. I'm going to make a backup of it, and I'm going to work with the backup so that I don't ruin my previous work that has been done thus far. Okay, so this would be it here. Actually, I'll just duplicate this file, duplicate, and give it a new name. One more in the progression of the series that I've created here. So 284B becomes 284C. And that's the one we'll work with in case I make a mess of what I'm doing, and then I won't wreck the previous instance, which seems to be in pretty good shape right at the moment. So 284C is our new working platform here. And so we're going to load up the construction set. I do it in 2 stages, especially for a large plugin like MWAM main. So I load Moorwind Tribunal Blood Moon in the construction set, and then I'm going to find my mod of interest, which is Down here, my plugin of interest, jumbled in with everything else. Around about here. And we called it 284C. So I'll set that as active for the time being. Load it up. Big load. Okay, in the meantime, I've also got set up ahead of time, I've got a temporary place where we can store all the stuff that I'm going to export. And it takes a little bit of navigating to get to it. It's a little bit of a convoluted system, but at least it is a system. So hopefully that means I can keep track of things a lot easier. Okay, we're loaded, and for some reason this window keeps disappearing now on load, so I have to shift this and then it'll pop back up. Weird. And I'm just going to double check that my home is set up here. Okay, got it under backup, temporary, and main. Yeah, it's empty, so that's where I'm going to store my temporary files that I'm going to be working with. All right, so first thing we'll do is we're going to export the dialog. So you go in the construction set, you go to File, Export Data, Dialog, and we're just going to export the dialog that's concerned with the plugin and not all dialog that comes with the vanilla game as well. So we're just going to select New Dialog because we don't need the other. We're not changing any of the vanilla dialog. We're only changing dialog for Erengard Mines, which is part of the plugin. So I'm going to be exporting, I should just point out, I'm exporting dialog and I'm exporting scripts because this, and then I'm going to change within the dialog itself, the actual script names. So those are the three places where the script names are going to be changed. Journal names are going to be changed because that's where the journal entries will occur. It will occur in dialog and scripts. That's about all. So starting out with exporting dialog, new dialog, and go. Now we've got to name it, and we've got to find a place for it. And it actually is already more or less in the right place. But now we have to give it a name, so we'll call it MWAM main DIAL old. Okay, so this is before any changes, so we're going to call it old, and we're going to save it into my temporary folder. Ready, 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. And that's about all we need to do for that. So I'm getting out of the construction set already. Now, I should point out that there are different utilities you can use for doing the exporting. The construction set does the best job of exporting dialog, and I'll show you the file now that we just exported. It's almost 27.5 megabytes, so it's huge. So this is going to be quite a chore to open it up here in WordPad, but let's give it a try. But this is what it looks like. It's all parsed, separated. I guess there's tab delimiters. And it gives you not only the body of the dialogue, but it gives you everything else, all the filters that go along with it. So all the variables, all the people that do the speaking, everything else. Now, if I were to use another utility to export the dialogue, such as RyMash, I would get very little. I would get probably just the body, which is not anything good that I can work with. So the construction set is the best thing for exporting dialogue. Okay? Whereas on the other hand, the best thing for exporting scripts I've found is one of two utilities. One is RyMash and the other is MWEdit. Now, if you want to export the scripts so that they are divided into the individual script names, and each script is its own file, then you would use MWEdit. RyMash has a neat function where if you export the scripts, they export all as one file. All the scripts are included in one file. So we're going to use RyMash because that's going to be the easiest to work with what we want to do. So we go down to MWEM main that we just set up here, 284C, and right click on that and export scripts. It'll already provide a name for us, but we're going to append again the word or the phrase old, just to differentiate that from the new stuff that I'm going to create. Alrighty, run 2, 3, and save into my temporary folder there. And this is going to take a little bit of doing to deal with the big files that are going to be created, because this plugin has lots and lots of scripts in it. Okay, so we'll close this out now. We're done with RyMash, and I'll just verify that it got in here. Okay, and it's about almost 13 megabytes in size. All right, so we've got our two exports done. We've got the dialogue and the scripts, the old ones without any changes. Now we got to go into our changelog, which is very short on entries in MWEM main. There should be many more than that, but obviously I haven't done any reorganizing of that particular file. Okay, so I have earlier on, as I said, worked on the standalone, and so here's where I will find in the changelog here the actual changes that I made earlier to the names of the journals. So I'm just going to transfer, well, not transfer, but copy those into my main changelog, just for the sake of organization, keeping everything straight. All right. So now we know what we're going to change from and change to. And again, this follows my name scheme that I've set up for the Morrowind Amalgamated project. The two journal entries that are included with Erengard Mines are EM_owner, EM_PC owner, which are not bad. Again, in keeping with the original author's own sense of organization, these are actually fairly good names. However, I just want to be consistent in changing everything to the amalgamated system, so I'm going to go ahead and make the changes. simple as they are, and probably as, kind of unnecessary as they are, really, in a sense. Except that I do like getting rid of the underscore, and that will be a bonus. Plus, I will have the JO prefix in front, indicating that it's a journal object, which is one of the other bonuses of my name scheme, is that every category gets a prefix indicating what kind of category it belongs to. Okay, but that's really very minor points. The other mods will have much more urgency in terms of how desirable it is to go through a renaming process. This one is more or less just for demonstration purposes and an exercise, and just to be consistent, as I say. Okay, so that's what the changes are going to be. So let us go into what we just created and make the actual changes. So go back into our temporary home here that we made for these things. And let's start with the dialogue. So I bring that up in my WordPad, all 27.5 megabytes of it. This is going to be interesting to see how well this changes. But WordPad's pretty robust. So we're going to start with EMPC owner, I think. And so we'll copy the new name that we want, go into the replace function of WordPad, put the new name down here, and what we're changing from, which is this one, and put it into there. Okay, now in changing dialogue, I'm not going to worry about quote marks. Quote marks are an integral part of the export process in the construction set dialogue export. So you do not want to do any mess around with the quote marks in any way, shape, or form here. But otherwise, it's just a matter of search and replace. And I don't think we'll have any problems with that. So let's just go ahead and do it. We'll just do them one at a time just for illustration purposes. But otherwise, I could probably just use replace all. But a little bit of a safeguard is to go one at a time. And then you know you're changing what you want to change and nothing else that looks similar. Okay, so find next. We'll use the F and the R keys on the keyboard to go find. And then R to replace, 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 replace. And there we are. That's it. Okay, Control Home to get back up to the top of the document. Now we're going to do the other one, which is notice how I changed them too, by the way. I said JOEM PC own, which is the sort of the truncated version of what was here before, EMPC owner. And EM owner now becomes JOEM NP own. So these are quite distinct and unique names for those journal entries, and will make it easy to find those objects if we ever need to search for them, because they are unique and distinct for each individual object. Okay. Now we're going to copy that. Put this in the replace box. Paste over top of that one. And changing from this to there. And away we go. Find and replace. Replace, 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 replace. Quite a few instances of this one, but we are now done. Okay, now we can save this. We've done the changes necessary for renaming the journal in Dialog. So save as. And Dialog old now is going to become Dialog new. N-E-W. Okay. Boop. Done. Same with the scripts. Scripts old, MWS. I guess that stands for Morrowind Scripts. That's what Rymash appends it with. You will have to set up an association with the MWS files, but if you just open it in WordPad, it's treated like any old text document. All right, same idea. Replace. Old name. Now here in this instance, within scripts, we can pay attention to quotation marks. So I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to do two searches, one with quotation marks and one without quotation marks. And because I'm getting rid of the underscore and treating this all as a contiguous string with no breaks in it, I think I can get away without using quotation marks. So I'm going to put quotation marks in the original name and search and replace for those, and we will eliminate them. And then we'll do a search for without quotation marks in case the quotation marks were omitted in other instances of the original journal name, which, as I found out, they were. So, haha. Find, replace, 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 done. Okay, go back up home. Get rid of quote marks. Remember, this is for scripts only. For dialogue, you do not want to touch the quote marks. But for script changes, you can go ahead and look at, there is one. As a matter of fact, so the original author actually wasn't entirely consistent in providing quote marks or non-quote marks throughout the scripts. So that's why we do the two searches, one with quotes and one without. Okay, back up to home again and do the other. Okay, replace, replace, and up to the top. And nothing else without quote marks either. So we are done. And we'll give this a new name, save as. MWS new. There you have it. Okay, at this stage, and I think I'll forego doing this for the purposes of this demonstration, but at this stage, what I would do would be to take the script thing. We'll see. I'll get it started. Maybe I get lucky. Let's see how quickly it goes. I think it's going to take a while, though. So here I've started up MW Script Editor, Morrowind Script Editor, which comes part and parcel with Morrowind Script Extender. If you look for it in the package there, the full package, you'll find the script editor there. And this is a great tool for formatting scripts. So what I would do normally is I would paste all of my scripts into here and do a format of them. Now we've got an extreme number of scripts here, several thousands of them actually. And so this process of formatting with NMW Script Editor would take quite a few minutes. So as I say, I think I'm going to forego that for the demonstration purposes. But all I would do would be to load it in here and then hit the F5 key, and then the utility would scour all the scripts to make sure that they're formatted according to how it thinks they should be formatted, which would be to check for spacing and things like that, that it is all correct. And it may or may not entirely catch everything too, because there's so many scripts here. I think it does a pretty good job of catching everything. But sometimes I find that I feel that it slightly misses. And I haven't quite figured out why exactly. But yeah, it's a fairly laborious process for that utility to go through. So I'm going to go on faith that the changes that we made are not going to mess up spacing too badly or anything like that. It shouldn't, really. So I think I'll just go ahead and import the way it is, and I'm sure we'll be fine. Okay, so omitting this step for now, but I'll do it on my own time offline. And in fact, maybe I'll make another duplication here for that very purpose here. And I'll call it D. Okay, that'll be the one I'll work on offline. Meantime, we'll open up C and bring in stuff into there so that you can see what I'm doing. So the procedure is now, first of all, step one will be to import the scripts back into the new, the newly done scripts back into my plugin. Then compile the scripts, like recompile them all within the construction set. And then we'll import the dialog and save it all. And sorry, first of all, we'll have to change the journal names in the construction set. Then we'll recompile the scripts. Then we'll import the dialog. Okay, so here we are. C, import scripts. I right-clicked on it and I did import scripts, and it should jump us back to where we saved them. And now we'll take the new ones that we created, open, and wait for it to finish, and it should pop up a list of the scripts that were changed, which are these ones. Now let me just compare these. I'm going to copy this, select all and copy out of this box. And I'm just going to compare them to what I did in the standalone earlier and make sure that we're consistent. Yep, same ones got changed in both cases, so that's great. So that's a good sign to start with. So scripts are imported via RIMASH. Done. That's step one. Okay, step two, open the plugin in the construction set. So the RIMASH import script procedure specifies that you must recompile all of the scripts after doing the import process for them to be recognized properly. So we'll do that. after we changed the journal names. 284C, set it active. Bum. I'll be posting this to YouTube, my YouTube channel, by the way, if you want to review it at any time in the future. It's a big load. It's a big plug-in. Okay, now we have to change the journal entries because if we're going to recompile the scripts are going to have the new journal names in them, and if we try to recompile the scripts at this point, we'll just get a bunch of errors saying we won't be able to find those new names that we created. So let's get rid of this object window. We don't really need it. Okay, so up comes the dialog. Now the nice thing about dialog in the construction set is it changes quite nicely. The individual entries in each of the dialog topics will follow the name that you change to. So that's really nice. So I'm looking for EM PC owner. Okay, again referring back to our, don't need that, referring back to our changelog. EM PC owner is becoming JOEMNP own. So back over to here in the dialog and just single click on it. Make absolutely sure that's what we want, and I believe that is correct. And hit enter. Wait for a second and it will jump down to its new place, and you can see the individual entries came with it. So no further work need be done there. Back up here to find the other one, EM owner. And you can see the old entry, the old topic was deleted. It's got a delete mark after it. And next time I load the plugin, the construction set will find that delete and actually delete upon load. Okay. New name for EM owner. Paste, enter, done. Okay, so I would like to change, I'm going to just change tabs for the heck of it. And hit OK, and so our dialog is now taken care of. Okay, so dialog is done. The new journal names are in place, and now script recompile, and this is also going to take quite a while because there are so many scripts. Normally it would just be seconds if it was the standalone, but with this big plug-in I've got lots and lots of scripts, and so we're just going to sit back and sip our tea or whatever while this process goes for the next 6-7 minutes or so. Hope everyone's doing well today. I'm going to have to do some testing and find out if there's a way that I can reduce the burden on my CPU before I do some game streaming. There's my stomach. The game streaming was last time I tried it, it was causing my CPU to burn up. So I've got a few options in mind to try to rectify that problem. And if I can do that, then I'll get back to streaming some games. But I won't be doing that right away today. So today we're just concentrating on construction set, which should be a lot less taxing on the CPU. Okay, so now we're into the section down here. I don't know if you can make it out, but these are the scripts that I've already renamed in the plugin from earlier tidy jobs, as I call them. Where I've renamed objects to follow the Morrowind Amalgamated Name Scheme. And so you can see this next bunch that's coming up, quite a large series, is going to start with the prefix SC, which stands for script. And then the next two letters will be, 2 or 3 letters will be indicators of the mod that they originated from. And these are quite large scripts that we're going through right now. They were from the Balmora Clothier, and so the recompiler had to look through all of the objects and verify all of the objects, and there were quite a few pieces of clothing named in each of those scripts, so that's why those ones took so long to compile. Some will go faster, some will go slower, depending on how much objects are named in the scripts. And that was Erengard Mines right there as we went scooting by. One of the scripts for Erengard Mines that I renamed in my previous session. Now we're in the horror mod. That one's a little bit broken, so I have to do quite a bit of fixing on that before it will be fully usable. Quite a lot of these are broken. In the amalgamating process, many conflicts arose, and with the horror mod, I think there are some cell conflicts among other things, so that has to be fixed. Local variables, as I said, are a very complex process if you do want to rename any of those, and so I think the process of starting to rename some things and starting to tidy up some of the mods that I put into this amalgamation. Well, the process in partial form has probably wrecked some of those local variables, and so things like attack on Innis Mon might not work properly. It might need workarounds to get it to function properly, if at all. One of the next things I want to tidy up, because it keeps giving me errors, is White Wolf of Loken Mountain. Again, I started a tidy process in that partway through, and so probably some of the variables are a little bit broken on that. So that's a good one to think about completing very soon. 5 Keys of Azura, similar. But other mods are getting close to being completed. The JOG mods, Havish, Halden Shore, and Booty Island are getting pretty close to being fully changed over the way I want them to be consistent with the amalgamated name scheme, and tidied up in other ways. And those ones I think are pretty functional, pretty good. One or two minor glitches is about all. Arms of the Empire I've done a lot of work on, so that one seems to be working quite well. Five Toes Guild, I believe. I think that one works well. And Tamriel Rebuilt. I am quite proud of Tamriel Rebuilt. I did a massive change on that. And so far, so good. Everything seems to be working well in it. And now we're doing Erengard Mines. I don't expect too many problems with this. The only other thing I'm going to change in Erengard Mines maybe is NPC names. I kind of like to change NPC names. They are instrumental in being included in dialogue scripts, and they also influence dialogue and scripts too, mostly dialogue. So I may want to change the names there, but that will be for down the road, I think. I think I'll get onto more urgent matters such as White Wolf of Loken Mountain and make sure the variable names and scripts and everything are in line there before I worry about Erengard Mines NPCs, which are reasonably named already. As I say, Graphite has done a very good job, I think, in organizing his various categories in his mod, Erengard Mines. So I'm not really chomping at the bit to change anything there. Okay, now we're into scripted spells. Now we're into TB. What is that? There's something I have to rename. I think that's tribute, but I think I'm going to rename those again a second time, because TB as a prefix for mods, I decided I think I want to reserve that for Tribunal. For any scripts I want to change in Tribunal. I won't be changing script names very readily for the vanilla plugins, Morrowind Tribunal or Blood Moon, but down the road there may be a few instances where I have to make some changes for some reason or another. So I'm going to reserve that prefix TB for Tribunal, I think, and we'll call Tribute to the Community something else. Now we're in the Underground, a lot of scripts in the Underground, so my prefix for that is UG, so that's what we're going through right now, SCUG. But that means we're getting closer to the end of this long and painful process. But the good news is, as you can see, we went through Erengard Mines, the SCEM series, without any error messages popping up. So that means so far we've done something right. Fortunately, importing dialogue is much quicker. And again, if you were to do this in the standalone mod, Erengard Mines, or any other mod, Tamriel Rebuilt, it's large enough. It probably take a little while, quite a few more seconds than next to immediately, but most smaller mods will be practically immediate in the length of time it takes them to recompile all the scripts. But this is so big that it takes several minutes. The underground is another one I haven't really double checked it thoroughly, and I know there's at least one dialogue conflict, which gives you a problem right off the top. So that mod is a little bit broken in the amalgamation and requires a workaround, but we'll get to it eventually. As you can see, it does take time, all this stuff. Biggest part of it is getting down to a system where you're going to store everything and organize it so that you can find things that you need them as you work along. And so I've got folders within folders and categories of folders and to-do lists and backup lists and mod after mod after mod. Okay, we've gone through the SC series, the ones that I've renamed, which is the vast bulk of them now. And so now we should be getting very close to being done. We are done. All right. Scripts are all recompiled. Exit. All right, final step now. One more to recap. In Rymash, import the scripts into the plugin. Second step, open the plugin in the construction set. Third step, rename your objects, in this case journal entries. Fourth step, recompile all the scripts as demanded by Rymash. Now the fifth step, import the dialog. Import data, dialog. Dialog new, open. And you can see the process happening down here. And it's quite a bit quicker than what we had to go through with the scripts. Again, if you were working in a smaller mod, that would be almost immediate. Here it actually took about 15 seconds. And we are done. Now we'll save the plugin. And all of our changes should be complete in the dialog, in the scripts, and in the dialog entries. Exit. Okay, I'll keep that open. I'll close this out. And our change log We've saved, so I don't need that anymore. Okay, so now we have to redate the mod that I've just changed. And to do that, I go to RyMash, where I've got it set up so that the date is preserved. And there it automatically changes the date back to what it was. 284C now has the original date on it. All right, now to get rid of those deletions that we made in the journal section of dialog, I'll reload it. Two-stage process. Vanilla first. And the plugin that we just finished working on. .284C. Set it active. Wait for a minute. And this is the stage, I believe, at which the old dialog entries will get removed. Flagged as deleted. So upon reload in the construction set, they will be eliminated. So now what I'm going to do is just verify my work. Cross my fingers, hope it all goes well. And for that, we'll be using WinMerge. First of all, I'll save this just to make sure any changes are locked in. 1, 2, 3, save. Okay. So let's do a verification. Let's export the dialog that we just changed. File, export data, dialog, new dialog. And we'll give it a different name. We'll call it change, maybe. And very conveniently, it found the folder that I was using before. CHNG for change. All right, now we're going to export the scripts from RyMash. In fact, I don't think I really need this anymore. I'm going to get rid of that out of the construction set. Okay, let's go to RyMash now. .284C, export, right-click, export scripts, and we'll call this one change as well. CHNG, save. Okay, so this is just our verification checking process here. Okay, so now I go to where everything ended up. I'm going to pop it into this folder here. Hang on, I should just empty this out. Okay. You dummy. There. Okay, so I will take all of the changes and the originals that I exported, both scripts and dialogue, and I'm going to throw them into here. Copy into my folder where I make comparisons. And I'm going to open WinMerge. So this is excellent to have if you don't have it on your computer. This will compare individual files for their content against each other, as well as whole folders. So if you want to make sure across a couple of drives that all your folders are consistent in terms of the content they have, you can use WinMerge and do a comparison with that. So WinMerge. Those of you who aren't familiar, I'm sure everybody's much more familiar than I am, though. And so we're going to take scripts old and compare it against scripts new. And we should see a few places in here somewhere, if I can find it all amongst the big jumble here. Not going to be easy, is it? GH. Should be under SCEM, right? So let's go back up here. Again, if you were working on a smaller mod, this would be much easier to find, but because I've got so much content in here, here we go. Okay, so here we can see our first instance where indeed the old got replaced by the new. Old, new, yeah. Okay, so it looks like those changes are documented throughout. So that's great. Okay, now let's compare what we just did and just exported, which was the changes that we made, with what we exported before and changed manually. Hopefully they will be one and the same. I think they are. The only thing that might be different... Oh, wait a minute. There's something here that's a little different. What is this? This is unrelated to the work we just did. This is rather interesting. Oh. But in all other regards, as you can see, there are no differences in the Erengard Mines section. So that means that whatever we did earlier on in terms of exporting and changing manually did get carried through to the automatic process of exporting and re-importing after we made the change. Okay, I'll check that later. I'm going to leave it open, but I'll check that offline. That's something else unrelated. And now let's compare the dialogues. We should have the same sort of result, I hope. So browse to dialogue old, dialogue new, and again you can see little instances throughout somewhere where changes have indeed been registered. Ah, here we go. I found one actually. And yep. Okay, the old style and the new style. Okay. Now let's compare our newest export from within the plugin as it now stands with what we did manually. Again, we got some changes which I think are unrelated. I think. But let's check and see. No, actually we do have a bit of a problem there. Okay, so I'll go in and change that manually. But that's where the verification process comes in, is making sure that something didn't get skipped, which apparently it did here in this. For some reason here it did. It did not skip in the standalone project, which I did earlier. We did not have this problem appear, but apparently it does give a bit of a problem in my amalgamation, and it looks like it actually took the entire journal entries out. Of course it might have, because that was before I renamed the journal, wasn't it? Yes. So that's where that arises. That's because the journal got renamed after I did the manual changeover. Yeah, so I think we're okay. Here we go. Yeah, that's it. So I think we're okay. I think everything is all right, but I'll do further checking offline because it's fairly onerous to go through this volume of information. It's going to take me several minutes, which will be just boring for you to look at. But I think after having seen what I have seen here, preliminary indications show that everything seems to have gone okay. So, volume aside, and the difficulty that that presents, the procedure seems to have worked all the way through for both this major plugin as well as the standalone. So to recap, just to wrap it all up, so we open up the mod in the construction set, export dialog into one file, use RIMASH to export scripts from that plugin into another file, document our change in a change log, make the change that we want to see, open up the scripts and the dialogue in your Word editor, preferably something like WordPad, maybe Notepad, but WordPad I think works the best. It has a search and replace feature built in, and in other ways it does not alter your document, such as Word or something might. Some other more huge word processor, so I use WordPad. Go through, search, replace, save into new files, use RIMASH to export the new scripts into your mod. Open up the mod, make the changes to the actual objects, name changes to the actual objects, recompile the scripts, then import the dialogue, the new dialogue that has been altered, save up your mod, and you should be okay. Then verify everything, and of course do all the necessary backups accordingly. Work on the backups so that you don't wreck something that's pristine and all that stuff. But otherwise, that's about it. And for changing objects in scripts and dialogue, that should take care of the trick. Thanks for watching. Again, I'll post this to YouTube, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.